those? Flat tip? Wad cutters? Nice, dude. Putting perfect holes in there.
These are the issued practice rounds.
Oh.
147 grain too.
Oh, you guys don't have 147 grain though, do you? Hollow points?
Oh, we sure do.
Oh.
That's what we. Yeah.
That's a hefty boy.
Winchester Ranger. Yep.
Lovely. What's going on, guys? It's Garrett and Ryan with Executive Training Group, and we're talking about practical shooting today. Practical shooting is just basically what it exactly sounds like. We've talked about this a couple times. We're not going to get lost in the weeds. You can go off on this tangent about explaining practical shooting. Look, guys, it's like whatever your job is, right? If you're carrying a gun every single day for self-defense, if you're shooting competition like USPSA or 3-gun or whatever it is, the goal is kind of practicality, all right? The things that start to fall outside of that are going to be like your bullseye marksmanship shooting. It's not me. I'm not disparaging those practices or saying that they have nothing to add to the conversation. I'm just saying like it goes so far outside the realm of kind of these metrics that I would consider to be the guidelines for practical shooting. So we'll keep it simple at that. What we want to talk about, we're going to do a drill here that kind of demonstrates. This is something that I did in class for a while to just kind of help people understand from the start what they should be measuring and what they should be looking for in their shooting. And then we'll talk about at the end how you do that, okay? So when we talk about practical shooting, the things that I think are important are speed, accuracy, and consistency. So again, how fast you can do something, how accurate you can do it, and how likely it is to happen when you do it is consistency, to put it in fancy terms. So I think for both of us, we discussed this a little bit. The order in which we kind of focused on these when we first started shooting was basically everyone thinks about accuracy first. And that's where you'll get a bunch of the things that you hear at classes that we kind of know, in my opinion, are outdated, like, hey, let the gun surprise you when it goes off, slow, steady squeeze, all these things that are purely focused on just getting you accuracy, right? They don't have anything to do with speed. We all know this idea of slow, steady squeeze when you're up close and shooting fast doesn't cut it anymore.
That's all meant to make you pass. That's
yes.
What that's for.
Yeah, it's a way to trick you into just doing this thing. And shooting has basically just been measured for a long time, I think, off accuracy. Then speed kind of came on, and people were like, yeah, actually speed is a metric. Yeah. And now I think the next one that everyone's focused on is consistency, okay? So it doesn't matter if it's a gunfight or if it's USPSA or whatever it is, if you're trying to get better at practically shooting, overdeveloping those hard skills so that if you're like, and this is kind of what the drill is going to be, like if you have an open target really, really close like this, or a moving target, a high percentage target where you need to just, speed is going to obviously be a little bit more important in there. But those other metrics don't just disappear, right? I can be consistently wicked fast up close, but if I'm completely missing the target because I don't have developed hard skills, my grip is crap, I'm bringing the gun out and just sending rounds everywhere, that's no good. That's you know, we're going to look at that and say, hey, you're kind of faltering in this area. So I hope that concept kind of makes sense to you guys, that you're constantly measuring how fast, how accurate, and how consistently you can do these things. And that to me is what defines practicality in your shooting. Is there anything before we get into the drill that any thoughts, anything? Okay.
All right, guys, to kind of demonstrate this, I'm going to shoot a couple of strings of just draw in 2 rounds, just doubles, okay? On the first one, I'm going to focus all of my effort on accuracy. So there's absolutely 0 time standard. I'm not even going to use my timer because it's just going to distract me. I'm going to completely focus on all the fundamentals, accuracy. I want everything to be perfect. All right, 2 rounds. Here we go. There we go. That was better than the one earlier. So check this out. Got a very nice 1-inch, 2 round group. But that took forever. I didn't time it, obviously, but that took a ton of time. If that was a guy with a knife coming at me, is it practical for me to shoot like that? My hits were really good. I might stop the guy. Honestly, with 2 rounds, you're probably not even going to stop the guy. That's a tangent.
Even if it was competition.
Even
if it was a competition to see who could shoot the guy in the chest twice, you'd have lost.
Yeah, you still lose, yeah. Oh, you threw me off. So, gunfighter competition, I would have lost. I didn't have time to stop the threat. I didn't have a fast enough time to win a competition because a competition's going to have a time standard as well. This time, I'm going to go strictly for speed. I will time this one, just so I have a starting point that helps with the beep there. So I'm not going to worry about accuracy. If my grip's bad, I'm also not going to worry about that. I'm not going to worry about these stupid iron sights. I'm just going to press 2 rounds as quick as I can. All right, perfect. First shot, oh, it is here. First shot was way low delta, and I felt that. I presented the gun and just kind of assumed the sights would be there. The front sight probably wasn't. It was low and left. D zone, A zone. Rode the recoil up. So is that an acceptable accuracy standard? I would argue no, not for practicality. And again, both for a real life situation, because this round is not doing much to stop a threat quickly. This one helps, but we want everything in there. Again, for competition purposes, this score would suck. And it's not worth the, it was a 1.26 total. I'd rather take maybe an extra 0.2, 0.3 seconds and get all A zone. It's that simple. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna do this a couple times in a row, and I'm gonna go for somewhere in between. I'm gonna try to find that balance to essentially achieve consistency. A balance between accuracy, all my fundamentals, and then pushing for speed. Two alpha, 194. I had to slow down a little bit on my, I believe is after my second shot. I have to readjust my grip. Hands are sweaty. I don't have any modifications on this, so it's gonna happen. But again, the first shot was good, and then I could feel the grip getting screwed up, and it's like, okay, maybe I need to take that extra time, clean up the shot. So that's what I did. Let's do a couple more. All right, pushed the draw a little bit. 166, 2 alpha, or no, 1 Charlie. Yeah, that was grip. I felt that. Let's do it again. That was 2 alpha, 153. That's grip again. 1 Charlie, 1 alpha, 147. Let me see if I can clean this up and get more alphas. Push through the shots. I still got an A zone. 249 with a bad draw. Do a couple more. All right, that's back in A zone, 1.6. Two alpha, line, one of them's a line burner, and 155. Can I do one more? Yeah, we'll do one more. Okay, so last one was a 155. There's a lot of 155s in here. So throughout that string, I have a couple Charlies. 1 Charlie flew up here, but my consistency really kind of rests right now with this gun with the iron sights and none of the modifications I enjoy. My consistency kind of rests in that 1.5 second for buzzer, draw, 2 rounds. That's where I can kind of comfortably push as fast as possible without suffering the accuracy. Make sense?
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense.
All right, guys, so you guys just saw Ryan work a drill here, and this whole concept of practical accuracy, speed, practical shooting, balancing speed, accuracy, and consistency. One thing that I want to annotate just about gear and equipment, right? Because I know there's going to be people on the internet that's like, oh, I could go faster or whatever, da-da-da. So gear, the way I focus on this, especially now being in law enforcement, I have to get used to using level 3 Safariland holsters or iron sights I had to shoot for a while, not like your nice fiber optics. Gear is a factor, but it doesn't have to be an excuse. So an example is like, if I take my USPSA rig that was a T-Rex Arms Ragnarok with my Glock 17 that's set up exactly how I like it, I don't have to defeat any retention. One of my best reps on this will be comparable to my best rep on that holster, but sometimes you're going to see I might mess this up or whatever. So gear is always going to play a part, but it doesn't have to be. We don't want to make it an excuse, right? It's usually just telling us, hey, you get a few more reps in drawing from the holster and practicing all that stuff. So I just want to say that at first. If you're really used to shooting a red dot and then you go back to an iron sights, things are going to be a little bit different, especially these blocky, me and Ryan have kind of discovered the same thing. These blocky duty iron sights, I think, are just horrible when it comes to what you're seeing on the target and all that stuff. There's a reason we put red dots on all our rifles. I think we should do the same thing with our pistols. I'm pretty strong on that opinion now. Okay, but enough about that. So What Ryan demonstrated here is this kind of this concept of we start by focusing on accuracy. That's kind of where everyone starts, and then we move our way over to speed. And then we start to have this thing that comes in that's consistency. The first thing I want to address is drills, which is what for predominantly a long time, that's all I shot in the military. Before I shot competition, I was focused on drills. Here's the hard thing about drills. Because it's such a short, controlled area where you're utilizing speed, accuracy, and consistency, it's like what we're doing right here, draw 2 rounds. Your draw is going to be put on a very micro scale, and you're going to be watching the time, the little mistakes you make on your draw, and then you're going to shoot 2 rounds in there. There's not a whole lot of room where you make massive mistakes, and it's going to show. A good example is I could do a drill where I stand back here and go 2, 2, 2, and I could run that maybe 10 times, and you'd see a slight fluctuation of like, you know, this one was pretty fast, this one was okay, and this one was that way. So that's kind of what drill shooting is doing. Now, it's really good for isolation. It's good for saying, hey, I want to see what my draw is doing, I want to see what my splits do and all that stuff, but it's not a great measurer of consistency. How well do I do this thing over time? Now, USPSA is a great measure of not only speed and accuracy, but also consistency, right? If I want to do well at a big match, I can't just skyrocket this stage like I'm a amazing grandmaster and then dumpster fire all these other stages, because overall, my consistency where I end up or where I place is not going to be good. You have a lot of shooters that will struggle with consistency, where they'll do really, really good at one match and then they'll go and they'll be down here. I consider myself one of those shooters that was pretty consistent. I never got to like a really, really high grandmaster level. I was never going to be up there where like Brantley is. He's always going to smoke me at matches. But I didn't have too many matches that I stand out to me where I'm like, good God, I just did horrible on that match, right? Even my bad matches, I was like, yeah, that wasn't my best performance, but it is what it is, it's still okay. So consistency has always been something that I think is very important, because I have to be able to access this skill, and it's got to be within a certain margin of error that's acceptable, whether it's for competition, me wanting to win the competitions, or it's for walking around with a gun on my hip for self-defense or law enforcement in the military. All right, so now I want to talk to you guys about how do we build these skills, right? So we're sitting here, we're doing this one drill where we draw and we shoot 2 rounds. We've given ourselves a metric for our accuracy, our A zone, right? We would like to stay, relatively tight in this A zone. If we start getting some of these Charlies, that's a little bit of like a, hey, might want to watch that. If we start getting these Deltas, there should be something that you're connecting and you're feeling, okay? So I want to just walk you guys through, how do we now start to adjust those metrics, all right? And how do we break it down? So I'm going to do a drill for you real quick, same drill Ryan was doing, and I'm going to just talk to you about what I feel, and in my brain, what I'm going to think about or what stands out to me in this drill, okay? Oh, okay, so it's a good rep. It is what it is. It sucks. I talked about the holster. We're going to talk about it. Okay, so 206, right? Here's my shots. 2 alphas. It's not horrible. I would maybe like those to be a little bit more left, but accuracy-wise, from the distance I'm at, that's pretty acceptable. Total time. That's the first thing I'm going to look at when we're looking at here is like, how much did the entire drill take me to accomplish? Now, that's a metric I'm going to track throughout my reps, right? The total time it takes me to draw, shoot 2 rounds, okay? 206, I can already tell you from my experience, that distance, everything, clearly the holster was what screwed that up. My split was a 2-2. That's not bad, but it's not great, right? I could try and shoot a little bit faster in between. Okay, so 184 is an atrocious as far as from the holster, and you guys saw it, right? I went down, and this is a problem I have sometimes with this holster, where I go to hit and then roll back to grab the gun out, and for whatever reason, like kind of sticks to me, and I get stuck on it, right? So how do I fix that? Well, it's not really something I'm going to fix today at the range. It's something I'm going to fix with dry fire. I could sit out here and do these reps, and it would, chip away at it, right? It's a draw rep, it's over and over again. But truthfully, I'm kind of wasting the ammunition while doing this thing. So what's really the effective way to do this is go home, dry fire, dry fire, dry fire, dry fire, dry fire, okay? So I don't think all of my reps will be that atrocious, but we're going to kind of go from there. So that's the first rep. Those are the things I'm looking at. How fast did I get the, gun up and out of the holster? All of that. Do I want to fix the holster draw? Okay. I need to do dry fire for that, okay? So let's do another rep. So now I'm consciously thinking, just because I know in my brain, where a lot of times this happens is when I don't get an angle forward enough on the retention, that's why that happens. So this is where I say putting conscious thought into developing subconscious processes, okay? So I'm out here, this is where drills are really, really good. You can isolate little things. Now I'm isolating my draw, I'm thinking about that one thing, but while I'm thinking about that one thing, guess what I'm not gonna be able to think about? Shooting, trigger press, all these other things, because I'm focused on that one portion of what I'm doing. All this other stuff is going to have to be kind of on autopilot. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Woo, You ain't gonna see that too many times. The internet's not gonna believe it, but that's okay. Yeah, they will. It's oblong enough. Okay, so I just maxed out the accuracy. I'm so happy this just happened. Okay, so these are the rounds that I just shot. They're through the same hole. Okay, my time standard on that was 1.24. So reason being, I don't care that much. If they believe me, they can believe me. So this is a great example of a time where I maxed out the accuracy standard, kind of maxed out the speed standard, but could I do that over again? The odds of me doing that again, pretty slim, right? The odds of that accuracy being that maxed out and going through the same hole, it's not something I was like trying to do, if that makes sense. It just ended up happening, so that's a little bit of that luck. Total time, 124. So we cut off a bunch of time just because the draw went smoother there. 103 draw and a 2-1 split. So my split times were pretty consistent, same output. All right. So again, I just maxed out accuracy. It's kind of luck. It just happened. That's great. That's to me, I'm not like meant to do it. No, that's how it ended up happening. Okay. 128. 128. 2 rounds right here, right? 128. 2-1 split. So again, stock Glock trigger. I would like to see 1/8, but it is what it is. Maybe I'm not as fast as I used to be. 107 out of the holster. Okay, so again, holster draw felt good. I'm kind of going through all of the processes of what did I feel, how was my grip when I got out of the holster, my hands come together, and that was a pretty good one. I felt good about what I saw and what went there. So I'm continuing to measure this drill. Now you guys are noticing overall times. I'm still keeping that in my brain, right? It's painting a picture of, yeah, I might have one rep that's really, really good. I might have one rep that's really, really bad, whatever the case may be. But I want to take note of all of those to try and go, hey, what's my consistency? What does it look like? Okay, again, went to press in, and this thing bowed out and flexed on me. That might be a little bit of me consistency-wise, but I also don't love how flimsy these are. Regardless, I wouldn't call that a bad rep. 140 total time. Still got off in a 119, so yeah, 10th or so. Not the best, but I was able to make up for it with kind of faster hands getting the gun up, and getting, I think it was this one and this one, or something along those lines. So still acceptable accuracy. So you guys are starting to get the picture. I'm just going to run through a couple of these just for you to watch, and then we'll look at the end result once I'm done. I'll call out the times. All right, that was a bad one. 174, 2-0 split, and a 154 out of the holster. Again, missed my retention. Is what it is. Not a great rep. 130 total time, 2-3 split, 107 out of the holster. Good. Nothing to write home about, but acceptable. All right, same thing. 2-0 split. Felt my split go a little bit quicker on that one. That's cool. 132 total time. 112. Again, not phenomenal, but not bad. All right, I pushed a little bit. I felt my left hand not quite make contact with the gun where I normally want it to be. That's because I'm getting the gun out. We're shooting a little sooner. So something for me to take note of. Pushed one out just barely outside the Charlie, but I did a 1.15 and a 9.5 first shot. So a little bit of speed, sacrificed a little bit of accuracy. All right, obviously that one doesn't count because whatever, I'm reloading. Okay, so here's the overarching concept, and I'm gonna try and make this brief for you guys because we're talking too much. This is what I've done, right? When I get done with this whole session, that's my accuracy, right? Ideally, I'm aiming for like here, and you can start to see some of the outliers, right? But then you can also take into consideration the time. Hey, how long did it take me to do all that? And you can just make these little improvements. And everything you do in shooting, whether it's an isolated drill like this or it's, we run around the range and we do a bunch of stuff. Anytime you stop measuring one of those metrics, anytime you're like, I don't care how consistently I do it, if I can just bring the gun up and shoot this piece of steel really fast, yay. Anytime you throw one of those metrics out, you're doing yourself a disservice. Nobody cares if you can be ridiculously fast and ridiculously accurate, but it's like a one-time fluke, right? Like the thing that I did, put the round through the same hole. I can't recreate that, right? That's not something I'm intentionally doing. It's outside my level of consistency. Now, can I recreate consistently, let's say sub 2 seconds, second and a half, inside the A zone, from 3 yards away and be plugging it in the chest? Yes. How would I improve it if I wanted to get better? Well, I'd focus on my draw. I'd do some more dry fire to get my draw more consistent. You would put conscious thought into subconscious processes and just do them over and over and over again until they get smoother. Marksmanship wise, there's a whole nother category to get into as far as you'll notice the splits were very consistent for me. I was right around 0.20 for everything, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. But once I had that gun up and I was shooting, the shooting portion was very consistent, right? From the time the gun cleared the holster to here, boom, boom. That time was very consistent because I was shooting the same target over and over again. If you pushed me way the heck back to 25 yards and had me shoot A zones, you'd see this same process repeat itself. So guys, all we wanted to share with you is just this kind of concept of like, how do we measure shooting? Because lots of times in qualifications, it's purely accuracy, or it's, you know, or it's just speed. We're doing something up close to the target and we go as fast as we possibly can. But these are these three metrics we want to continue to keep in mind: speed, accuracy, and consistency. So I hope that's helpful for you guys, and it wasn't ridiculously confusing.